Probably some lights on your post.
I'll submit some stuff to Eddie if he wanted me to submit it or, try and get it on your trailer for the night.
Yes.
Stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to Ozark City Hall. We're glad you're here for the Board of Aldermen meeting and engaging with your elected officials. Listening to perspectives of city residents, business owners, and other community members helps our elected leaders make more informed decisions. Before the meeting begins, let's review our rules of order. These ensure the meeting is orderly and efficient while allowing everyone who would like to speak an opportunity to do so. There are 2 opportunities for you to speak: during the agenda's scheduled visitor and guest portion of the meeting and during public discussion of new bills and resolutions. During the agenda's scheduled visitor and guest portion, anyone who signed up at the city clerk's office before 5 p.m. the Wednesday before the meeting can speak to aldermen about the topic they specified. Now, in the public discussion of new bills and resolutions, that allows you to give comments for aldermen to consider before they make a decision. Anytime anyone is speaking, the following rules apply. First, only one person should speak at a time. Please be respectful of the person speaking and hold your comments until it's your turn. Second, anyone speaking must do so from the podium and speak into the microphone. Third, you must first provide your name and address in writing to the city clerk before beginning your comments. These forms are provided near the entrance. You also must state your name and address to the Board of Aldermen using the podium microphone. Fourth, all comments should be addressed to the mayor and aldermen. Finally, all speakers have 5 minutes. A digital timer will show you the countdown. The light will change from green to flashing yellow when 2 minutes are left. It will stay yellow at the 1 minute mark. Your comment time is up when the light turns red. The mayor or alderman may have additional questions for speakers after this time limit. Occasionally, the board will invite someone to make a presentation at the meeting. This is only to give information to the board about a specific topic. These presenters will have no time limit on giving their information. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded with video and audio unless there are technical difficulties. The use of cell phones or other devices is discouraged during the meeting. Please silence your phones right now. Again, thank you for being here and engaging with the City of Ozark. The meeting will begin shortly.
Call of the roll.
Alderman Aiken.
Here.
Alderman Campbell.
Here.
Alderman or Mayor Pro Tem this evening, Galloway.
Here.
Alderman Hutchinson.
Here.
Alderman Metcalf.
Here.
Alderman Snyder.
Here.
We have 6 aldermen present. We have a quorum.
Before we get to the minutes, I just wanted to clarify who is who behind the dais. The mayor is Don Currents. He could not be here. He's on a mission trip in Guatemala, and he doesn't have a way of zooming in either from Guatemala. So Mayor Pro Tem, which is a person that's annually elected by the board to serve for this reason, that's me, and that's why you see me here at the mayor's section. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the July 15 minutes? Are there any corrections, additions?
Yes.
Alderman Hutchison.
On one of the issues, and one of the issues, my vote was recorded incorrectly. I just, Chandra is aware of that. She's going to change it.
If you could maybe just identify that so the other board members know.
It is Bill number 3572, and it was adopted as ordinance 24-052, and I voted aye instead of nay.
Very well. Any other additions, corrections? Do I hear a motion as to the July 15 agenda or minutes?
I motion that we approve those minutes.
Second.
Have a motion from Alderman Metcalf and And a second, and I'm about ready to blow your last name, Chris. Aiken, which I know every minute besides right now. All in favor of approving the minutes? Turning to the July 18, 2024 non-legislative session minutes, are there any additions or corrections to those? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
A motion that we approve those minutes?
I second that.
Say motion by Alderman Metcalf, seconded by Alderman Hutchinson, to approve the July 18, 2024 non-legislative session minutes. All in favor, show of hands. It is unanimous. Next on the agenda is ceremonial, or our ceremonial matters. There are none scheduled tonight. Next, we have scheduled visitors and guests. There are 3 of them, and we'll just go in order as they're set out on the agenda. Marshall Decker of Decker and DeGood, the city's 2023 financial audit.
Yeah, I'm Marshall Decker with Decker and Good. Does everybody have a copy, or are we going off the screen, or?
We have a,
They got a copy of the paper. Okay. I'll go through the report, point out some highlights. You got any questions, you can stop me at any time. I've done this once or twice. I don't think you can throw me off, okay? Opinion page is the first 3 pages. And several years ago I spoke to you, and it's been in between, and Eric has come and speak to you. But the way it's broken down on page 1, first 2 paragraphs is what we call the unqualified or clean opinion. And it just says, having audited the financial statements by the opinion types and the related notes, that we say that financial statements are a proper or fair presentation of the financial position of the city as of December 31st, 2023. So bank bonding, outside readers, that's the opinion they want to see. Anything else, you could have a qualified opinion that says, except for this, which we really couldn't audit, everything looked okay, and that's kind of queasy on that one. And then you get another opinion that says, don't read this, it's adverse, it's a bad opinion. I've never issued one of those, because normally we've left the city by the time if they have that kind of a problem. And you wouldn't want to pay for that. Basis for the opinion, it got the italic words government auditing standards, because there's federal grants in excess of $750,000. In the back, you have what I call the statement on CFA, listed all the grants, the money paid out. You had to have that, and then that, getting into weeds here, it also calls what I call yellow book. There's an opinion page, compliance and internal control. There's no findings or issues on that. Then it gives 2 paragraphs of management's responsibilities. And then the bottom paragraph starts, the auditor's responsibilities, recites that. Those are bullet points. We've always done that. About 4 years ago, they added that to the opinion. When I was a young man and had more hair and I was brown, we could do this in 1 page. Now it took 3 pages to recite this opinion. On that bullet points thing is new is a going concern consideration. And that would mean you couldn't operate for the next year. You'd be out of cash. I've never, in Southwest Missouri, I've seen some bad situations, but no one ever gets that going concern issue. And it says, management letter that we've issued that to you. The next paragraph says that the MD&A letter, which is included in, especially you're submitting for a CAFR report, the management discussion analysis letter, in theory, makes it easier to understand the statements. I'm not so sure about that, but it's a required part of the presentation. And then you have to have the budget and the pension schedules included. Then the bottom supplementary information, that's a federal grant, big paragraph on that. under uniform guidance, and it's in the back. We've already submitted that to the Federal Clearinghouse. They received it, accepted it, so you're in good shape on that part, okay? What happens if you have federal grants, you don't submit it, and then down the road you go for a grant, it can hold you up until you get those reports in. And I've seen it happen once or twice, but everything's done timely and submitted timely. And then page 3 is the paragraph opinion you have on what I call yellow book, and it's included in the financial statements. So the opinion said everything, basically says the content is fine, and for bank, bonding, lenders, the categories of cash, receivables are substantial. There's backup for that information. It's not made up numbers, okay? And the recount on that, if they're projecting out, like on a bond issue, water, sewer, they want to know they're working with good numbers to project out what your debt capacity is, okay? And the format, there is a format you have to follow. The governmental funds for this city is general, park, stormwaters, and capital improvement. The profit and loss statement looks different from the water sewer. It's a business type. So the way the numbers stand is a little bit different. On page 18, on the general fund, you had revenue $14,638,045, expenditures $14,561,094. From your standpoint, what you're looking at, what you're concerned with, is the ending fund balance $9,619,011. Okay. What you want to see there is half of your expenditures. So it's $14,560,000. So $7,360,000 is the number you'd want to see on equity, and you got 9.6. So you got like 7 months of equity in the general fund. And that basically says you're in good, solid position. 3 months is fine. 3 to 6 is top as far as what you want to see. And also, when you looked at 9,619,000, you had considerable amount of capital outlay, 7,197,000, which is kind of, I'd say, even a city this size, that's kind of on the high side. So you wouldn't do that each and every year. So that makes that 9 million look even better. Park, stormwaters, 5,103,941, 6,568,555, decreased 1,464,614, transferred in 1,449,13, slight decrease 23,701 decrease. It still ended the year 6,844,456. So it has like 12 months fund balance at the end of the year. The transfer is basically the general fund has to support the park. That's normal. That's not unusual. But even with the transfer, the general's in good shape in the park, and that's the OC mainly is what's the operation in that is in fine shape. You have another sales tax called capital improvement sales tax, 1,177,536. Transferred $1,025,000 for capital improvements out to other funds. Increase of 152,536, ended year 779,345. Capital improvement, that depends on next year's plans, but you have roughly each year, the sales tax, you'll have that number pretty consistent unless you have a big downturn. On sales tax, go back to COVID when it started. Some of the towns, there's concern the sales tax would drop way off. In 2008, when we had the housing crisis, sales tax, I saw it drop 15 to 20% in a lot of towns. But on COVID, most people were staying local, and actually sales tax stayed the same, and sometimes actually went up. So there was no ding on the sales tax collected. That's what you're always concerned with on sales tax, is there some event nationwide that might impact that. The water sewer fund, that you will find on page 21, the profit and loss there. And on that, may different from what you might receive. We do book depreciation at the end of the year. So that can make the net, make a net loss because that's a bookkeeping entry. But on water sewer, you have 978,619 profit, solid waste 80,130. The question came up to me, can we put that in a general fund? Yeah, you can, because you're just collecting the fee and paying the haulers. So sometimes we see that as a service for fee will sit in this general fund rather than have its own separate fund. So that's whatever directions you want to do, that's fine. Page 22 is the one I like because that's called a statement of cash flow. And that is, it boils it down to money received, money spent. Money received is a positive number. Money spent has brackets around it. So your first category there is net cash provided by operating activities. Water generated, water sewer, 2,141,823, solid waste, 70,889. That number, if you're analyzing, you always want to look down to principal and interest paid. And basically you want to cover that operation covers your debt payment, first step. And then any money extra covers the capital outlay because you had a big project. It showed a cash decrease, but the money was sitting from past years in the bank account. You had that prior. So even though it decreased, you still finish year 7,684,081 cash and cash equivalents. That's cash not earmarked, tagged, reserved, or spoken for. So you spent about $6.7 million in operations, and you had $7.6 million in cash not restricted or qualified, okay? So that's a year's worth. So if you had 60 days, you'd be okay because it rotates it on a 30-day cycle, okay? So you have plenty of money to operate with there. And the thing I always talk about I don't see any problems because cash flows decreases due to capital improvements. But that's a schedule to look at, and that's usually what rings the bell. Do we need to look at our rates? And not so much with a town this size, but I see in smaller towns, they'll lag, they won't adjust rates. But if you got 2% or whatever, 3% inflation, you need to look at, and it's better to bump your rates 2%, 3%, kind of stay pace with it. Because what happens in a lot of towns is they won't change the rates, and it's been 20, 30 years, and they keep doing worse and worse and worse. So here comes a grant, and rural development tells them, first thing you've got to do is raise your rates 50 to 100%. I've seen that happen many a time, okay? But your cash flow looks good, and that's kind of a state cash flow. And basically, I think your statements are cash basis. So when you're looking at that, what you're concerned with is this year, budget actual, if we're in 3 or 4 months, or say 6 months, are we about 50% budget, 50% expenditures? That's how you compare that. And the second question I'd always ask is, what was my cash this year versus last year? How's my cash stacking up? Which is kind of an indicator. If we're going down, if our cash is worse, position is worse this year than last year, why? And that, as counsel, that's what you always got to ask those questions. Why? Explain it to me, please, okay? The rest of that, notes of financial statement, that are part of a clean opinion, you have to have those in there for the clean opinion. The information, the way it goes is it's policy, cash, depreciation, long-term debt, and then other information. You don't have it there, but on page 50 is the loggers. And on loggers, the way you read that schedule is the first A is if everybody retires, how much money do we need? Column B is what do you have invested? So like on column A, pension liabilities, $22,371,667. Money in loggers, $21,019,770. So you're only off $1,351,897. Given the size of the town, I would expect to see that number. Some of them, it'll be equal to or greater than. You'll have more invested. Right now, this next year, 2024, after today's market, because your Column B is market value, not cash basis. So it might look worse if it stays the way it is, or it dropped to 1,100 points. It might not look so pretty by December 31st, 2024. But Loggers is I think, well managed. They do a good job of telling you how much you need to put in each year. They change the percentages. It won't stay the same. It keeps you right on track as far as having adequate funding. Then there's schedules, budget actuals required, and then the schedules on the loggers are in there. And then the CFA, it's back there on page 64. And that was all the grants expended this last year. Not received, expended. That's kind of a confusing point, because a lot of times people say, well, I received this much. I don't know, how much did you spend? That's what determines that. Financially, you look fine. Operational wise, didn't see any great problems. Any questions?
Sure.
I don't think, I've done this long, I've had some doozy questions, so. Always willing and glad to answer them. Nothing else?
I do.
Uh-huh.
You said that nothing was really terrible about the report. Is there any area of the report that you suggest should draw some attention from us?
No, not really. There's things in this report, it's really deep in the weeds in college theory and stuff. But we watch that, and then you submit for the achievement and financial reporting to GFOA. And once you get through that and you get that emblem, you know the report's fine. What I'm always concerned with is your cash balances. And even with large capital expenditures in general fund and transfers, you still ended the year in what we call a rock solid position. If you get down below 3 months, then I usually have some comments telling you, you need to build it back up.
So if I heard you right, I didn't mean to interrupt you. If I heard you right, what you're saying is Ozark is in a rock solid financial position. Did I hear that term?
Yes.
Okay.
See, we're always after the game's over with, is this report, December 31st, 2023. And this is August. So I don't know what you've done between when I finished, but you had a good starting position. I imagine you're still in a good financial position. But you ended the year great. Okay.
All right. Any other questions from board members? Sir, thank you for your presentation and your report. Very valuable.
Okay, thank you.
We appreciate it. And I'll say for the audience and board members, it's hard to, I guess, define what Mr. Decker's position is on our agenda, because usually with scheduled visitors and guests, we limit it by time to 5 minutes. But that's probably for guests that have asked to speak. And that time limit, of course, would not apply to somebody who's delivering an official report. For the next 2 guests, they have asked to speak. They are time limited to 5 minutes and are asked to address the board directly.
Your Honor, I have a point of order I need to make.
Yes, Alderman Steiner.
I understand, Ms. Harrelson, you're here to speak, and you are a representative. You are running for Senate. Is that correct, State Senate? And this is not directed at you. Please understand that. But I need to make sure that everyone knows that this board does not endorse any one specific candidate here. And I do understand that the optics, for those that are viewing on the live stream, can see it that way. But I want to make that perfectly clear. We do not endorse any specific candidate. And I would ask Ms. Calloway to probably address that, because we are live. Is there anything we do need to be concerned about because she is running for a state office?
No, the Board of Aldermen is governed by the rules for speakers to sign up in our city code. And this speaker, like all speakers, has signed up within the required time frame to speak before the board. The only requirement is that the speaker can't be speaking to something else that's on the agenda, and that's not an issue tonight.
I appreciate that, Your Honor. Again, no disrespect, Ms. Harrelson whatsoever, but we need to get that clarification out there. And I would do that for any other candidate that was here. It's not just because you're the sole one here, but anyone that sat out there and stood in your shoes, I would say the very same thing, and I'm not ashamed to say it. So, Your Honor, that's my point of order.
All right, so as to the point of order, the board understands that we do not endorse any candidate for political office as we sit here behind the dais, and we don't maneuver the city or its staff to do that as well. And then as Alderman Callaway had stated that under the rules, people can apply and speak. So that point of order is sustained. All right, next scheduled speaker is Susan Harrelson.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Susan Harrelson, 1575 East Milton Road, Ozark, Missouri. I've been there about 20 years. One thing I wanted to do, because I haven't had a chance to do it, I think Eddie's on the board now, Dave was on, but I want to thank you guys personally for helping us with the Ozark Chamber of Commerce. The chamber meant a lot to me, as you guys know, and I worked hard to make sure that we got where we need to be and where we are today. And we had a new teacher welcome, 75 new teachers. It was very successful, and all the teachers felt welcome, and our chamber is strong. We have money in the bank, and I thank you so much for your support. That's the first thing I wanted to say. I was supposed to address you guys a couple of weeks ago, but I was not able to because I had to run over to a fun thing that they had at the park on the square, and I had to be there at 7 o'clock. So I apologize. I know this is right before the election, but I had to reschedule. So what I've been doing is going around and talking to city councils. I've spoken to Nixa. I've spoken to Billings City Council. Everybody's welcomed me with open arms. And all I'm doing is just introducing myself, letting you guys know that the Senate district has changed. Now, Christian County, as of March 2022, is now part of Senate District 29. So we are with Barry, Lawrence, and McDonald County. And it's a big change. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was well aware of that. I also wanted to let you guys know when I was talking to Nixa City Council, most of those guys don't know me. I don't know Mayor Giddens very well. I knew Brian Steele pretty well, but I just wanted to let them know what I wanted to do, if elected. And they were very open to it. And I told them, I said, I would love to meet with any of you guys at any time, have a cup of coffee, have some lunch, and just talk. What do you guys need? Just in case, if I am elected, but that's my goal, is to talk to every city council and every county government official to let them know I'm available, because I think that's going to be my job, if I get the job. But Mayor Giddens, that was so interesting because I went with Jimmy Lyles, also the city administrator, and we had lunch and we talked about generators. I told him, I said, what would be the biggest thing that would be a problem for you guys? And he goes, if we had a natural disaster, a backup generator for the city of Nixa would take 18 months to get here. If we had a tornado that took out the city, they are supposed to have a generator and a backup generator, and that backup generator would take 18 months. And I said, why would that be? He said, well, a year ago, it was only 6 months. 6 months ago, it was a year, and now it's 18 months. And I said, well, how do you deal with that? And he goes, we just hope and pray. But he said, the reason is because they can't hire enough people at the factory where they make them. So it's just, it's a job problem. And that is a problem. And I'm, things like that I want to be aware of. I'm planning on meeting with councils and commissions, like I said, just in case. And I just would, I know you don't support me. I just wanted to introduce myself and let you guys know that, if elected, I'll do the best job I can for Ozark, Christian County, and the rest of the counties. So thank you very much for letting me address you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is from the Historic River District, Ms. Jillian Johnson. While she comes up here, one of my roles of Mayor Pro Tem was also to judge the pie eating contest that HRD had sponsored this weekend on Saturday. I'm a lawyer and I appreciated the opportunity to be a judge.
Thank you for being a judge. I'm Jillian Johnson. I'm a board member of the Historic River District. Thank you for the opportunity to offer an update on what we're doing. So back in June, we offered a social mixer. We invited all of the businesses downtown to gather together and ask questions, figure out how we can bring solutions to the table and do better as an organization. These are some pictures from that evening. The next is one of our favorite grants to date is the White River Electric Cooperative. We were able to we were awarded a grant for murals. And so one of our ideas were lurking doorways. If you're not familiar with who this gentleman is, it is Buff Lamb. So he is on the building where Off the Rails Bakery is. So we thought that was very interesting. And artist and retired teacher Robert Langford was our artist we chose to make this happen. This is on the Iguana Roja building, and this is Dr. J.C. Young. We are still learning more about this gentleman, but he is involved in Linden Lure Spa and a home that was built off, I believe, 6th Avenue and Church, if you're not familiar with that home. So we're pretty excited about this. This past 3 days, we have celebrated Ozark's birthday. Friday night was Sunset on the Square. We had live music with Steve Smith and the Sneakers. It was an amazing evening. And then Saturday was Cruise in the Square car show. We had a great time. We had Buff Lamb Band. And again, had a lot of folks enter pies. And Mr. Bruce Galloway was one of our judges, as well as Chief Matheny and Barb Heinrich with the Market House venue, and Chef Watts with Off the Rails. It was quite a good time. And then last evening at the Finley Farms Garrison, we had our fundraiser. We're going to call this our first annual fundraiser. We had some interesting artwork displayed as well as auction items. And I think we ended the night very well out on the Garrison's patio and on the Riverside Bridge. And these are just a few photos of what happened throughout this past weekend. Middle bottom picture is Sheriff Cole auctioning off our pies. So, and I believe that's it. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
About how many vehicles did we have on the square?
We had a max when we had registration, I believe, of, I think, 80. And don't quote me on that number, we're still figuring out. We had some car show participants show up throughout the day, and we were able to park them after absentee voting was finished at 12. So I will get those numbers,
No,
the
I'm
accurate number
just
to
curious.
you.
We filled it up, I understand.
Yes.
So,
It
good deal.
was an
Thank
awesome day.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Appreciate the
Johnson.
time.
All right, our next on the agenda is first reading of bill and resolutions. For those people who are watching and those people online, and for those people who are here, first reading bill and resolutions is a opportunity for the public to speak. I'll first call to the audience and then to the people who are watching. When that part of the hearing begins. But after the ordinance is read, it is traditional and customary for aldermen to ask questions of the presenter. And so once they're done, it will go to the public. All right, new bills. Ordinance number 3583.
I make a motion that we place bill number 3583 on first reading by title only.
I second that.
I have a motion from Alderman Aiken and a second from Alderman Metcalf to place ordinance number 3583 on its first reading by title only. All in favor?
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, authorizing the city to enter into a contract with Olson Incorporated for engineering services.
All right, good evening. I am going to pull up, there you are, Ben's all over it. As you know, I cannot talk without pictures, so, and we've got some new faces on the board tonight, so I want to walk you through. This is a significant improvement that the northern corridor of Ozark has been needing for a while. We continue to see growth up in those areas, and we know that there's also the potential for substantial amount of additional growth. But tonight, what we want to talk to you about is the design contract. And in a moment, I'll be inviting Jonathan Pites up here to kind of dive into the details from Olson. But I wanted to remind you of where the project is and how we've got this set up with our partners at both MoDOT and OTO. This is a three-part project. Project one is the one that we've entered into a cost share for. And I'll show you some examples, some preliminary drawings of that. Project two is probably the one that the constituents reach out to you about the most. The intersection at 22nd and CC. It is currently not functioning properly. It is at a level of service F during certain peak periods of time. And with the continued growth in that area, with great growth. I mean, we're happy about additions like the Mud House, Come and Go, Culver's, all those things. But with growth comes some pain, and it is time to make those improvements. And then project number three, which will basically be some efficiencies to the interchange to allow that diverging diamond to basically function and accommodate additional vehicles. So those three projects will really impact that whole corridor. I'll remind you that this project was originally slated for either 2028 or 2029, depending on the state transportation improvement plan. We met with the OTO and MoDOT and said, we really can't wait that long. The issues up there that we're seeing need to be addressed. So they came to us with a solution, which is this cost share. And that's how we've expedited this to get this into fiscal year 2025. Right now, we're currently set for a letting in 2025, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. But right now, to remind you of what this roadway improvement will look like, what you're looking at, and I'll do this for you. West Elementary is right there. You can kind of see the parking lot. Here's Fremont, and we're going to take you on a trip to the east. So one thing that MoDOT did request of us, they're very big on access management. So they requested a boulevard. Our last two projects have been a standard 5-lane project that has 2 lanes going each direction with a turn lane. They're trying to control more access. So MoDOT did request that, and we had to adjust this for that. That will allow some nicer things aesthetically when it comes to the boulevard and some greenway and, you know, just a green median really to break up all the concrete. I think it's important to note too, we've got Mr. Wadley in the crowd this evening, who is going to be presenting to us next week about the trail. We've also incorporated a connection to the Chadwick Flyer in this project. So you'll see on these slides, there's a 10-foot trail along the northern boundary of this roadway, and then a 5-foot sidewalk on the southern side. So we're not leaving out the pedestrian. We want to accommodate the pedestrian. This is just going east, kind of across those fields where we see the potential for future development. Now we're going to get all the way to the intersection. And remember, these are conceptual. These were put together to go after the cost share, and Olson Engineering will be working on refining that design and working to make sure that we get the biggest bang for our buck on these projects. But it really is about trying to get all 3 of these projects completed, get the efficiencies increased. And, you know, I never sugarcoat anything up here. It's going to be a process, just like Jackson and South Street were. People are going to be impacted, but our saying around here is short-term pain for long-term gain. So we try to keep that in mind. But we'll also try to do things in our phasing that will mitigate the negative impacts. As we dive into the design, we will do that. But there's just some concepts for you. Tonight, what we want to talk about is the design aspect of that. So we went out for an RFQ, request for qualifications, for this project. We received multiple engineering firms that submitted. And Olson came to the top of the table, or top of the list, I should say, because of their past experience. And I don't want to steal Jonathan's thunder here, but I'm going to let Olson step up here. Jonathan Pites again with Olson, and let him talk a little bit about what Olson will be doing for the city of Ozark.
Mr. Pites?
All right. Good evening. Thank you, Jeremy. Good evening. Jonathan Pites with Olson, transportation engineer. Olson, we're a full-service civil engineering design firm located in Springfield. We provide engineering services throughout Southwest Missouri and various communities. I don't know if this is going to work. There we go. Just a little bit about Olson. Like I said, we're throughout the Midwest. We perform full service civil engineering, and transportation is my specialty here. So a little bit about the Route CC project. The D project, which is project 1 that Jeremy was referring to. As he mentioned, we're looking at a 4-lane boulevard from Fremont Road to 22nd Street with the shared use path and sidewalks. The second project, the intersection improvements at 22nd Street, would include a box culvert extension. So as you all are pretty familiar with the area, there's a large box culvert that goes underneath the highway that will need to be extended. So there'll be some extensive culvert expansion associated with the projects, along with signal improvements and some pavement widening. So with that pavement widening, we do get into the 65 and Route CC interchange bridge. And so there will be some bridge rehabilitation, so deck and substrate repair, and some subsurface and some surface replacement as well. As Jeremy said, we're partnering with both Ozark and MoDOT to perform design services for all 3 projects. So with that, I'll take any questions.
So again, tonight, we're just talking about the design. The project has not been let at this time. We don't have a contractor in place at this time, but we are hoping to kick off the design process, the right-of-way acquisition process, and really get this thing rolling. We've talked about it for long enough. The financing is now in place. MoDOT is ready to start moving on this. We've got hopefully Olson in place tonight if we can approve that. Confident in their abilities to get this project done, confident in their abilities as a firm too, that has multiple resources to get this project. And I'll brag on them just a little bit. The part that really caused them to come to the top of the paper trail here when everyone was submitting was they've done extensive corridor studies between Highway 65 all the way to Nixa. So in their RFQ, it felt like they knew so much about everything. Well, come to find out, they did, because they did that study. So the points were easy to score there. But anyways, we're excited about them. Again, 50-50 cost share right now. We've got it projected, let's just say $7 million. You'll remember you guys gave us the approval in 2022 to go after this cost share. Last year, you also approved an advanced funding agreement that allows us to use our money that is dedicated through the OTO to help pay for this project. I think it's important to note that we're also applying for additional grants. Next week, when myself and Mr. Wogley talk about the trail, we will talk to you about a grant that we're actively going after as well to help fund that portion. So as with any project, we try to go after as many revenue streams or any funding sources, I should say, to get those projects completed. The project that you see tonight, the contract, You'll see that if you do crunch the numbers there, that puts us at about 7.8% of the total project cost on the engineering, which is well within reason. And that's what I've got for you tonight in terms of this. And again, we're just talking about the design contract at this point.
Any questions? I do see a question for Mr. Parsons from Alderman Campbell.
On the boulevard, I know if it wasn't a boulevard, it'd be 4 lanes, 2 lanes each way and turn lanes. Does the boulevard expand into turn lanes also?
Yeah, and there's some dedicated turn lanes that you can kind of see in the medians there, Mr. Campbell, as controlled access points. And there's another one. There'll be multiple full access points and then some controlled access that will just be right in, right out. But that's all yet to be determined. We will be using the MoDOT spacing criteria so that that's safe. What we've come up with in this area is they call them stroads. They're streets that try to act like roads, and they cause a lot of congestion and accidents. So MoDOT is encouraging controlled access points so that you don't get a scenario. I always use the example of Glenstone, because you just can't go down that road without multiple points of entry and ingress and egress. And we've learned a little bit from that type of roadway development, and we hope to make this a little smoother.
Okay. Any other questions for either of our presenters? All right, then we will move to the public portion of this hearing. We will look to the audience. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak in favor of ordinance number 3583? In favor? Online, I do see Ms. McFall.
Jeannie McFall, 1324 East Warren Avenue, Ozark, Missouri. On the Ozark, it's not Ozark Transportation District, but there was a transportation district approved by Jared Properties. Will any of that revenue from that go towards being able to reimburse the city for these expenses?
Let's get your questions and we will get answers for them.
Okay.
One is for Jared.
Well, Jared Properties established a transportation district there off of CC.
Mm-hmm.
So will any of those funds be able to go towards this project?
Okay. We'll find out whether that's tonight or the next session.
Okay.
I don't know if we have an answer.
Yeah, is that the Deerbrook Properties?
I don't know what it's called, but Attorney Callaway, you have your light on. Maybe you intend to explain.
I believe what's being referenced is a community improvement district that Curtis Jared had brought before the board a few months ago, and the board approved the enactment of that. We have not yet seen a proposal as to what they will spend any sales tax revenue on, or if they're even going to generate sales tax revenue. So it's not anticipated to fund any of the improvements, to my knowledge.
That answer your question? All right. Is there, in light of that, anybody else in the audience that wishes to speak in favor?
My name is Hal Jennings, 4605 East Palm Court, Old World Estates.
Mr. Jennings?
My concern is the traffic buildup on CC and 22nd. Since I have been living there, it has gotten so bad, it's incredible. The backup is almost to our main entrance at times. I understand that looking at that corner, it's terrible. There's no doubt about it. But something needs to be done for the northbound people. Southbound, it's great because you've got to come and go. You got the nice big intersection, but you have nothing for us. We want to turn right. We can't. We can't do anything. We have to wait, sometimes 4, 5, 6 lights to get through. Then we have another problem. Turning left from CC into Rapid Roberts, or turning left from the mud house onto 22nd to turn. Those also cause major backups. If for some way that can be temporarily halted until the intersection is completed, it would be fantastic. It would make the traffic flow a lot better for all of us. Ozark or Old World Estates, we did just a little mini survey of it, and 115 residents there are in favor and would sure appreciate it if we could move forward with this, or the city could, and help us out with the traffic flow. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the audience that wish to speak in favor of ordinance number 3583? I'll now extend, hearing none, I will extend the offer to people who are watching online. Anybody in the audience, none online is what I'm told. Anybody in the audience wish to speak against ordinance number 3583? No one wishes to speak against. And I'll extend that offer again to those people watching online. And I'm told there is no interest there. All right, we will hold, any other board comments in light of the discussion? We'll hold over ordinance number 3583 to its second reading next regularly scheduled session. Ordinance number 3584.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3584 on its first reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion to place ordinance number 3584 on its first reading by title only, made by Alderman Metcalf and seconded by Alderman Snyder. All in favor?
An ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Ozark, Missouri, chapter 110, mayor and board of aldermen, by adding one new section regarding abstentions. I'd be happy to introduce this bill, and then I can turn it back over to the alderman that requested the bill. This bill was requested by Alderman Metcalf, and he asked for this language to be drafted to address an issue that arises when there is an abstention and it frustrates the vote obtaining a tie in which the mayor can vote. So the language that's proposed, subsection A, is just a reflection of the language that the Board of Aldermen already adopted into their rules of procedure. So that just codifies that into your code. That is your law that governs the board. The language that's contained in subsection B is language that's similarly used in other jurisdictions, such as NIXA, to address situations whereby there would be a tie, but for the abstention that generates no tie and does not allow the mayor to vote. So this resolves that issue, and it allows the abstention to be recast as a no vote so that then the mayor can vote. With that, I can take any questions, and you are welcome to introduce your bill in addition to that.
Any questions for Attorney Callaway? Hearing none, you have.
I do, Your Honor.
Oh, yes.
So if I'm interpreting this section B correctly, we would vote, and if someone abstains, and then it would be clear that had he not abstained, had he cast a no vote, it would have been a tie vote. And then at that point, you would have another vote, or you would just consider that a no vote, which would allow a tie, which would make it a tie.
There would not be an actual call for another vote. That vote would be recast as a no vote in the record.
Okay.
And then that would allow the mayor to vote.
So recast in the record, but not physically another vote.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions from board members for Attorney Callaway and Alderman Metcalf? You were given an invitation.
I don't have much to say other than this came about because there are 6 aldermen and 7, including the mayor, And I think that it is not wise to exclude somebody's vote just for some strategic reason. And so I do wholeheartedly believe in abstentions, and you should abstain from voting if you should. I just don't think it should be strategic to prevent an elected official on casting a vote.
Any other board comments in light of those remarks?
No, actually, I do. An abstention should be used only in the event that you have, a conflict with that particular issue. So I do agree with this. I think it should be a yes or a no. If you're in favor of a bill, obviously vote your conscience on it. If you are not in favor, vote your conscience as well. I definitely think an abstention, for the sake of saying I don't want to vote, should never take place. We're put in this position to make these decisions, and we have to literally make the decision at the time. Conflicts are a totally different animal. If I have some knowledge of a bill here that is going to discredit it, I definitely got to pull myself back from it and abstain from it. That's just the way I see it.
Thank you, Alderman Snyder. Any other comments from board members? Alderman Aiken.
Yeah, I guess just a question. So would the abstention be recast as a no vote even if the abstaining alderman cites a conflict as the basis for their abstention?
Yes, anytime there is an abstention that would generate a tie, otherwise it would be recast as a no vote.
Any other questions from board members in light of those remarks? Alderman Campbell.
Just one more. Would you explain to us whether and how common it is that other cities have adopted this method of procedure, whatever you call it?
This is an issue that arises for all Missouri cities based on the fact that aldermen have to pass ordinances by affirmative votes. So the common law in Missouri recognizes that an abstention is really an acquiescence to the majority, which is usually in favor of something. And you can't, in this situation, recast the vote as a yes vote or an aye vote because they have to be affirmatively made. Therefore, the only way to treat an abstention so that the legislation can proceed to a vote by the mayor to break a tie, which would have otherwise occurred in that situation, is to treat it as a no vote. So any Missouri city would adopt this sort of legislation to address that issue that arises because of our state legislation. The city of Nixa has adopted similar language, in fact, exactly similar language in paragraph B. It is the same as what Nixa did to address that situation.
In light of those remarks, any further board member questions? Okay, so this is the public hearing as to ordinance number 3584. Are there any members of the audience that wish to speak in favor of this ordinance? I see none. I'll offer that invitation to people who are watching online. There are none online. Any members of the audience who wish to speak against this ordinance? Seeing none. Any online? None online. Very well. The public hearing is closed. We'll hold over ordinance number 3584 for its second reading at the next regularly scheduled session. Ordinance number 3585.
Point of order.
Yes, sir.
I've got a question here. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't these supposed to be bills and not ordinances?
That is a fair point. I think that we all understand that these are bills that are made to be ordinances, but I think that I will make sure that I'm going to restate it.
Well,
your point of order is sustained.
Yeah, it says it here, and I want to make sure that we're taking care of business here because it specifically says ordinance and it's not an ordinance yet.
Yeah, I think it's a typo, and I was reading from the Scrivener error there, but it doesn't interfere with our business. We've been voting according to statute.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is sustained. And so as to bill number 3585.
Your Honor, I'd place, or make a motion to place bill number 3585 on first reading by title only.
I second that.
There's a motion to place bill number 3585 on its first reading by title only, made by Alderman Aiken and seconded by Alderman Metcalf. All in favor?
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, authorizing the city to enter into a structure transfer agreement and block wall maintenance agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for the transfer of Old Highway 65 and the Ozark Mill Bridge.
Director Parsons.
Yes, thank you again. All right, another project that we need to talk about and basically just bring this to a point of completion. As you all know, let me erase to that, Ben. We recently completed the rehab of the Mill Pond Bridge, as well as made some significant circulation improvements, as well as pedestrian improvements. That was done via a TDD, as well as the governor's cost share. When we started diving into this, and again, I'm going to try to give you the cliff notes here, but there's some new faces here. We initially tackled this entire region, or this central corridor, as a 5-phase plan. You'll remember we started with phase 1, which was the Riverside Bridge. We got that in place so that would help us get that north-south arterial and open up that traffic to those, especially that need an alternate to either Highway NN or 65. The second phase was done over in front of B&B Theaters. And we turned that into a 5-lane roadway with the help of MoDOT, increased the capacity for that area. The third was the Jackson Street project, which we not only made vehicular improvements, but we also made significant pedestrian improvements. The fourth we identified was the Mill Pond area, or what the documents that we received from MoDOT referred to as the Mill Pond Bridge area. Those improvements were made to, again, help circulation and to help save an iconic structure. The Mill Pond Bridge, there's a lot of emotion and there's a lot of passion about that bridge. It is an iconic structure. After all, it is on our, I'm looking for our logo, but it's on our logo, I promise. We were able to work together with a public-private partnership and make those improvements. And I want to take you through some of the improvements. But before we even got into the improvements, we were handed this dandy document right here from 1962 that basically said, hey, the maintenance agreement that was in place at that time, we've kind of been following that, but we need to make some changes to that. So this was the only document I believe that we could find. So a lot of things have changed since 1962. So once the project was completed and we brought these upgrades in place, MoDOT reached out to us with a transfer agreement, basically saying your improvements have been made. We brought these roads up and the bridge up to a certain level of structural integrity. And we've made these improvements to ensure that Riverside or 3rd Street is now a through movement. A lot of good things happened there, quite frankly. These are just some blow-ups of the different areas that they identified within the documents that they sent to myself and Amanda, showing what will still be part of MoDOT's roadway network, but also what will now be part of our roadway network. And there's some advantages to that. Not only did we get upgraded infrastructure, renewed infrastructure, additional pedestrian facilities, we also got a new retaining wall that sets us up for the next phase of improvements in the Jackson Street corridor. The other advantage is that it gives us jurisdiction over these roadways that were once under the jurisdiction of MoDOT. So now we can make sure that they stay collectors or they stay secondary arterials. And they're no longer, basically what I'm trying to say is you can't just come in there and blow it out based upon a MoDOT plan. We have the authority now to kind of preserve the integrity of those roadways and what they mean to our community. They've got Jackson Street, they've got NN, they've got all these other places where their goal is to move traffic efficiently. But this will ensure that we keep that quaintness, that iconic structure. And I think ultimately, yes, we are getting out of this transfer agreement a new retaining wall, but I want to show you what was done as part of this project. And you all drive through here often, but I want you to know that this, I'm going to point to you because a few of you are looking this way. This retaining wall, and then I'll turn over here, this retaining wall was recently reconstructed and moved further to the west so that it could accommodate a right only or a dedicated right out onto the roadway there, which has helped greatly with the efficiency and the volume of traffic that we receive. The bridge is now actually the way it was intended to be. When this bridge was made in the early 1900s, it's a one-way bridge again. It was serving as a two-way bridge, and structurally that was very difficult on this. Additionally, as part of the public-private partnership, there was some substantial pedestrian improvements. You now have a grade-separated entrance into the Finley Park, and you have a future grade-separated entrance into what will be Garrison Springs, which is probably the most exciting project we've got. I know Hayden would say it is, but I'm pretty excited about CC too. But so substantial improvements were made. One of the things I wanted to point out to you too, with that one way, we now have a dedicated pedestrian walkway that is grade separated as well. I know it's just 6 inches, but the level of comfort that that provides for pedestrians, I can't overstate that. That gives you a level of protection and just another, I think I've got a picture of somebody walking it today. You can barely see it, but I love to see people utilizing this infrastructure. The big thing that came out of this is we had a bridge that ranked 2 out of 10. That is not a good ranking. We used to say a little prayer before we went over that bridge, and now we've got several new trusses and truss members and plates that were highly deteriorated have been replaced. Of course, you can see all the painting that was done, the truss and the bearings that were put in place. I've got a whole portfolio of pictures that we took during the construction to kind of show how bad of condition it was and what it looks like now. So it has been night and day. And again, this is setting the stage for that next project. And I'll remind you of that. I've got it circled here, but the next project will be the Jackson Street Bridge. So all those improvements that we made are now going to set the way for the expansion of Jackson Street further to the north and that dedicated auxiliary lane. So we like to do things, looking to the future. We like to do things in phases. And this has been a good project for us. I think now is the time to work with MoDOT and get this transfer completed. And with that, I'll take any questions. And Mrs. Callaway has been instrumental in this as well, because this has been a bear.
Any questions from Alderman? Alderman Hutchinson.
Yes, on the attached exhibit, if you look at number 11 there, it says the city of Ozark will allow Old Highway 65 and Ozark Mill Bridge to be used for motorized vehicles and/or as a walking bridge for pedestrians. There's no mention of bicycles, and they're not motorized and they're not pedestrians. And I know that seems very nitpicky, but I think clarity is always safer up front. Can we add bicycles?
We asked the engineering team about that. They didn't have the MoDOT lawyers on the phone, but they indicated they would not object to the use of bicycles at that time when we had the phone call with them. And they did not propose an amendment because of the time it would take to send it back through their team.
Okay.
So when we refer to pedestrian facilities, you hear me use the term multimodal quite often. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're trying to promote. So
I know the intent. I just wanted to make sure it was
clear.
I
understand.
Thanks.
Alderman Campbell.
A lot of what I notice whenever you're traveling north on Jackson Street and you're wanting to turn left and continue west on Jackson Street, okay, when you come down the hill, let's say, and you want to turn left, if that light is red, a lot of times there are people in the right-hand lane who are wanting to go straight on up 3rd Street, which becomes Riverside. I can't hardly see that far, Jeremy. You have to do it up here.
Talking about coming
Yeah.
down in that.
May I stand up?
Sure.
Yeah, so if you're going north on Jackson's, yes, north on 3rd Street, I mean, yeah, I was contact. If you're going north on 3rd Street, and there's a red light here, both lanes stacked up. Is there a way that the people, and there's some of these people that are in the right-hand lane are not wanting to go through that red light. They're wanting to go straight on north onto Riverside. Is there any way that, and I don't know if it's just a matter of striping or arrows or what it might be, but is there any way to allow that traffic to continue to move north without having to wait for that light to change? It's half a block away, maybe, or whatever, not even half a block.
We can certainly look into that. I know that we're part of our corridor study that we're doing with planning right now is a really hard dive into the 3rd Street corridor. As you know, right there at that intersection, though, you get very tight where the old Dairy Mart was, or Frank Lorenz's place back in the day. I think it's now a Filipino or something like that place. It's really tight, and you've got a retaining wall that kind of sits right there. I think if you were going to make that, you would have to really mess with geometry or improve the geometry of this intersection. And that's something that we can certainly put on our radar. I have big plans for 3rd Street. I want that to be our main street. So at some point, we're taking a hard dive into that when we solve all these other problems, if we can ever solve them. I feel like that needs to be our main street, and that needs to tie into the downtown and serve as that streetscape that we want, the ambience that we want. But we can certainly, I'll be interested to see what Olson comes up with their study. And I can certainly share with you, Mr. Campbell, the latest renderings and the latest maps that we've got from that study.
Okay. Good.
Any other questions for the speaker from the board? I did have one, and it was just a follow-up to Alderman Hutchison's question. And I think she was asking if within our ordinance, it's contemplated, or in this bill, rather, it's contemplated that bikes would be included on that elevated section or not. Was that your question?
It was changing of the wording to maybe multimodal. That would cover it
In the ordinance?
in the ordinance.
And my question is right now very, very specific to, as it's written right now, are bikes contemplated?
Bikes are intended and contemplated and encouraged. But if we want to make it that much clearer, I defer to.
We would have to send this back to MoDOT to get their approval. I will point that, that's a good suggestion, but the language just addresses what we have to do, and it's not directional, it's not shall, it says we will. So the city will allow motorized vehicles and keep the bridge open, and we will allow pedestrians, but there's nothing that prohibits the city from allowing bicycles on the bridge. And we did make that our intent known at the time.
Okay, that answers mine. What I'm hearing is we're not forbidding bikes from being on it, but we're just saying these other things will be there, but we can also include bikes.
Yes, essentially MoDOT wants to ensure we're not going to close the bridge as soon as we obtain the bridge. So.
Okay, that was my question. In light of those comments, any other questions from board members of the speaker? Okay, this is a public hearing. I will open it up now. For members of the public in the audience, those people who wish to speak in favor of bill number 3585. I see no hands online. That invitation is offered and nobody online. Anybody here wish to speak against bill number 3585 that's present in the audience? There are no hands. That invitation is extended online And there are none. Then we will hold over bill number 3585 to a second reading because the public hearing is closed, and we will take it up in the next session. Resolutions. Alderman Campbell.
Your Honor, I'd like to have Resolution 2007 placed on its reading.
We have a motion by Alderman Campbell to place resolution number 2007 on its reading. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alderman Snyder. All in favor?
A resolution approving the destruction of records that have met the retention schedule in compliance with the guidelines established by the Secretary of State in Chapter 109.
Anybody from the administration prepared to present?
I can speak to that. We had some resolution a few meetings ago, and it also listed some records that had met the retention schedule. So this is just some more along those same lines. The utility billing had several boxes dating back to 2013 of water receipts and water reports. The retention on that is about 5 years. So they were willing to let go of those records, and they've met that schedule. So that's what this is. The majority of this, there is one box of some older contracts that go back to like 1993 to 2008, just in a file, and it was discovered, and we don't need to keep them any longer. So freeing up some drawer space. And we contract with Shredded or Stericycle, and they come and get the documents and shred them securely. Then we get receipt of what they shredded. We have about 50 boxes. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hodges. Any questions for our clerk from the board? No questions about destroying 50 boxes of utility bills. That's disappointing. Is this a public hearing as well, or all right? So if there are no other questions from the board, I'll open it up to the public. Those people who are in the audience, anybody wish to speak in favor of destroying 50 boxes of utility bills? Online? Same offer in opposition to destroying 50 boxes of utility bills in the audience. None? Online? Nobody's accepted my invitation. Is there a motion with discussion over?
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2007.
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion by Alderman Campbell to enact resolution 2007, seconded by Alderman Hutchison. All in favor? Passes unanimously. Now we will move to second reading and final passage of bills. For those people in the audience and those people who are online, the second reading of bills is not a public hearing, so there's no invitations for the public to speak for or against it. That occurred the last scheduled meeting for most of these, if not all of these bills. This will be for board comment and discussion only. Bill number 3573.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3573 on its second reading by title only.
Second. There's a motion made by Alderman Metcalf, seconded by Alderman Snyder, to place bill number 3573 on its second reading by title only. All in favor?
An ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Ozark, Missouri, section 405-375, general mixed-use design standards.
Thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions, but I have nothing further to add.
Any questions following that astounding speech? There aren't any. You knocked it out of the park. Any comments from board members? Seeing none, none offered I will entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we adopt Bill number 3573 as ordinance number 24-053.
Second. All right, we have a motion made by Alderman Metcalf and seconded by Alderman Snyder to enact Bill number 3573 as ordinance number 24-053. Roll call vote.
Alderman Snyder,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Campbell,
Aye.
Alderman Aiken,
Aye.
Alderman Metcalf,
Aye.
Alderman Hutchinson.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
Bill number 3574.
I think that's me.
Alderman Metcalf.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we place Bill 3574 on its second reading only.
Second, please.
There's a motion made by Alderman Metcalf, seconded by Alderman Snyder, to place Bill number 3574 on its second reading by title only. All in favor?
An ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Ozark, Missouri, section 220-100, debris on property, effective failure to remove nuisance penalties.
Megan?
I have nothing further to add, but can answer any questions.
Any questions from the Alderman? Good job. Any comments from Alderman? That being the case, the hearing is closed.
Yes, Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we adopt Bill number 3574 as ordinance number 24055.
Second.
There's a motion made by Alderman Metcalf, seconded by Alderman Snyder to place Bill number 3574, to enact Bill number 3574 as ordinance number 24-054. Roll call vote.
Alderman Campbell,
Aye.
Alderman Snyder,
Aye.
Alderman Aiken,
Aye.
Alderman Hutchinson,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Metcalf.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
Bill number 3575.
Your Honor, I'd like to place Bill number 3575 on its second reading by title only, please.
Second.
There's a motion made by Alderman Snyder, seconded by Alderman Campbell to place Bill number 3575 on its second reading by title only. All in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract with Leak Investigators LLC for repair services.
Mr. Bonzo.
I am happy to answer any additional questions on this bill.
There are apparently no questions.
All right, thank you.
Any comments from the board? In that case, I'll entertain a motion as the board hearing is closed.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to adopt Bill number 3575 as ordinance number 24-055.
I'll second the motion.
There is a motion made by Alderman Snyder, seconded by Alderman Hutchinson to enact Bill number 3575 as ordinance number 24-055. Roll call vote.
Alderman Aiken,
Aye.
Alderman Hutchinson,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Campbell, excuse me,
Aye.
Alderman Metcalf,
Aye.
Alderman Snyder.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries. That's probably there's only one sneak.
Alderman, excuse me, Bill number 3576.
Your Honor, I make a motion to place Bill number 3576 on its second reading by title only, please.
Second.
There's a motion made by Alderman Snyder, seconded by Alderman Campbell to place Bill number 3576 on its second reading by title only. All in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract with Reinhold Electric Incorporated for repair services at the Ozark Community Center pool.
I am happy to answer any more questions if those arise.
There apparently are no questions about repairing the pool. Any comments from the board about repairing the pool? There are no comments. The board hearing is closed. Alderman Steiner.
Your Honor, I make a motion to adopt bill number 3576 as ordinance number 24-056.
I second that motion.
There's a motion made by Alderman Snyder, seconded by Alderman Hutchison to enact bill number 3576 as ordinance number 24-056. Roll call vote.
Alderman Metcalf,
Aye.
Alderman Campbell,
Aye.
Alderman Hutchinson,
Aye.
Alderman Snyder,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Aiken.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
Bill number 3578. That's me. Somebody needs to do that for me. You're elected, Mr. Aiken.
Your Honor, I make a motion to place bill number 3578 on second reading by title only.
I second that.
There's a motion made by Alderman Aiken, seconded by Alderman Metcalf to place bill number 3578 on its second reading by title only. All in favor?
An ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Ozark, Missouri, Chapter 100, General Provisions, by adding one new section setting forth the process for the establishment of memorials on city property.
Any questions of staff? Any comments from board members? Seeing none, the board hearing is closed. Alderman Aiken.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we adopt bill number 3578 as ordinance number 24-057.
Second.
There's a motion made by Alderman Aiken, seconded by Alderman Snyder to enact bill number 3578 as ordinance number 24-057. Roll call vote.
Alderman Hutchinson,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Metcalf,
Aye.
Alderman Aiken,
Aye.
Alderman Snyder,
Aye.
Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
Alderman Campbell, it occurs to me that because you sit on the committee with me for administration, you should read this ordinance. And I should have had you read the next one or the last one.
Okay.
But if it pleases you, Bill 3579.
I make a motion that we place bill number 3579 on its second reading by title only.
I second that.
There's a motion made by Alderman Campbell, seconded by Alderman Metcalf, to place bill number 3579 on its second reading by title only. All in favor?
An ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Ozark, Missouri, Chapter 100, General Provisions, by adding one new section setting forth the process for the acceptance of donations to the city.
Any questions of staff from the board? Any comments? Hearing none, the board hearing is closed. Alderman Campbell.
I make a motion that we approve bill number 3580 as ordinance number, and I need some help. Is it?
3579.
I think it's 3579.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do need help. No. I make a motion that we approve bill number 3579 as ordinance number 24-058.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion made by Alderman Campbell, seconded by, I didn't see who, Alderman Snyder, to enact Bill number 3579 as ordinance number 24-058. Roll call vote.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Hutchinson,
Aye. Aye.
Alderman Campbell,
Aye.
Alderman Snyder,
Aye.
Alderman Aiken,
Aye.
Alderman Metcalf.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
Bill number 3580.
Your Honor, I move that we place Bill number 3580 on its second reading by title only.
Second.
There's a motion made by Alderman Metcalf, seconded by Alderman Snyder, to place Bill number 3580 on its second reading by title only. All in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to accept and enter into a supplemental agreement amending a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Transportation Enhancements Funds Agreement.
I will raise a point of order myself. I wanted to make sure we recorded votes correctly. On the last vote, did all of us vote in favor, or was there any abstentions?
Of the reading the bill?
Yeah.
I vote, I'm not in favor of it.
Oh, on the reading, I just didn't know if you raised your hand was what
I
I
did
was.
not.
Okay, very good. Thank you. It still passed. Please go ahead.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to accept and enter into a supplemental agreement amending a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Transportation Enhancements Funds Agreement.
Any members of the staff wish to speak in favor?
Just happy to answer any questions on the next 3.
I meant to explain, not speak in favor. Any questions for Director Parsons? Alderman Campbell.
Not a question, but I do need to explain something.
Sure.
There are a couple of bills here that are identified as carbon reduction. And it has been explained to me well, I'll just say it this way. That comes across to me as something that I'm not in favor of. I was born and raised in the Appalachian coal fields. My first career was in coal mine construction. I draw a pension from that first career. From time to time, I go back and visit my kinfolk and my friends that live in the Appalachian coal fields, and I don't want to get shot when I go back, should they realize that I voted in favor of a carbon reduction program. So for that reason, I'm okay with abstaining or voting no, either one. I'll just cast no vote on both of these, but it's just because of my heritage. Okay, that's the reason I'm doing it. Nothing.
Thank you. Alderman Campbell, are there any other comments from board members? Hearing none, the board portion of the hearing is closed, and I'll entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we adopt Bill number 3580 as ordinance number 24-059.
Second.
There is a motion made by Alderman Metcalf, seconded by Alderman Snyder, to enact Bill number 3580 as ordinance number 24-059. Roll call vote.
Alderman Snyder,
Aye.
Alderman Campbell,
Nay.
Alderman Metcalf,
Aye.
Alderman Aiken,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Hutchinson.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes, 1 nay, motion carries.
Bill number 3581.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we place Bill 3581 on its second reading by title only.
Second. There's a motion made by Alderman Metcalf, seconded by Alderman Campbell, to place Bill number 3581 on its second reading by title only. All in favor? Did I?
I did. No, I made the second on the motion.
I must have misspoken, so I'll say that over again. There was a motion made by Alderman Metcalf, seconded by Alderman Snyder, to place bill number 3581 on its second reading by title only. All in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to accept and enter into a supplemental agreement amending a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Surface Transportation Block Grant and Transportation Enhancements Funds Program Agreement.
Any staff wish to explain the bill?
Answer your questions. I will just note that this one does not include anything from the carbon reduction program.
Thank you.
With that clarification, any further comments? Any comments from the board whatsoever? The hearing is closed. Alderman Metcalf.
Yes, Your Honor, I make a motion that we adopt bill number 3581 as ordinance number 24-060.
Second.
There's a motion made by Alderman Metcalf, seconded by Alderman Snyder, to enact bill number 3581 as ordinance number 24-060. Roll call vote.
Alderman Hutchinson,
Aye.
Alderman Metcalf,
Aye.
Alderman Aiken,
Aye.
Alderman Campbell,
Aye.
Alderman Snyder,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes, motion carries.
Bill number 3582.
Your Honor, I make a motion, I move that we place bill number 3582 on its second reading by title only.
Second.
There's a motion made by Alderman Metcalf, seconded by Alderman Snyder, to place bill number 3582 on its second reading by title only. All in favor?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to accept and enter into a supplemental agreement amending a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Carbon Reduction Program Agreement.
Any member of the administration wish to explain? Any comments from the board? All right, the hearing is closed. Hearing no one wishes to comment. Entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we adopt bill number 3582 as ordinance number 24-061.
Second.
There's a motion made by Alderman Metcalf, seconded by Alderman Snyder, to enact bill number 3582 as ordinance number 24-061. Roll call vote.
Alderman Campbell,
Nay.
Alderman Snyder,
Aye.
Alderman Metcalf,
Aye.
Alderman Hutchinson,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Aiken.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes, 1 nay, motion carries.
All right, that concludes the legislative portion of today's meeting. We are now moving on to reports of officers, boards, and committees. Our very own Eric Johnson.
Your Honor, thank you. There was a lot of work done tonight. There's a lot of good stuff on this particular agenda, and thank you for working through that very diligently. From time to time, you're going to hear me perhaps reference specific pieces of work that occurred on the agenda, and I'd like to do that tonight. I'd like to just give a big thank you to Mary Edna and her finance team for the good work they did on the audit. It is a big deal to get a clean audit report, and that is what you received tonight. And so I want to, it doesn't just happen. There was a lot of work behind the scenes that goes into that audit, and a $50+ million budget. There are many moving pieces, and I wanted to highlight that tonight and thank Mary Edna for her work and her team's work. Also, you have coming up on August the 15th, a non-legislative meeting. So make sure that's on your calendar. We're working on developing the agenda for that. And also on August the 19th board meeting, we will be beginning that meeting at 5:30 with a presentation of the citizen survey that was recently completed. That's all I had to report.
City Administrator Johnson, any questions for our city administrator? I do not see that there are any other reports listed on the agenda. So we will move on to Mayor and Board of Aldermen comments and announcements. Any, Alderman Snyder?
No, you folks know I'm very fond of what I do with with my organization, with Honor Flight. And we get to go back to DC and take our heroes back next week on the 14th. And I would ask that if you have time, come out to the airport when we come home. So it's very humbling to see it, and I'm extending that invitation to everyone in this room. Come out to the airport, 9:15 evening. You want to see something special? Come see that.
That's on what day?
That is Wednesday of next week. Wednesday on the 14th.
At 9:15?
9:15 is when we're due to have wheels down here back in Springfield.
In the evening?
In the evening,
All right.
late evening.
That organization is worthwhile, to say the least. Thank you, Alderman Snyder. Any other comments from Alderman? Alderman Campbell.
Not that it has to be said, but tomorrow's election day. I hope everybody gets out and votes.
A good comment. Our democracy depends upon people participating, educating themselves, and voting. So please vote. Any other comments from members of the board? In that case, I will entertain a motion.
I want to make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
We have a motion to adjourn that has been made by Alderman Snyder, seconded by Alderman Metcalf. If you wish to debate it, now is the time. Otherwise, all in favor?